Okay, good morning. Let's go ahead and do the next lesson for Advanced Math 2-1, Relations and Functions Part 2. Okay, so for the next page, we're looking at function notation. Now, I know that you've had a little bit of experience with this, which is great for us to do now. On here, function notation, if an equation is written in function notation, then instead of putting y, you see the symbol f of x. So in other words, instead of having like y equal to 2x plus 7, you would have f of x equal to 2x plus 7. It means the same thing. So x is your input, and instead of saying y is the output, we say f of x is the output. Now, function notation is specifically useful for finding a value in the range that corresponds to a certain domain value. So for example, if they give us f of x equal to x plus 7 and find f of negative 3, then basically what we're doing is we're plugging in negative 3 for the x and solving, and we get 1. So we would write that as f of negative 3 is equal to 1. But what it means is y is equal to 1 if x is negative 3 for that particular equation. So when we look at number 1, f of negative 9, you're just plugging in negative 9. Now notice on these sections here, they tell us what to use for these questions. So you have to pick out the correct one based on how it's named. So when it has the f, you use the one that has f of x. If it has the g, you're using the other one that has g of x. So for f of negative 9, we would just plug in negative 9 everywhere we see x in our equation and then solve. And you can just plug all that in your calculator if you like at one time and just go straight across. If you follow order of operations, you know, that's fine too. As long as you're getting this answer, you're in good shape. So the answer to f of negative 9 would be 31. Now on number 2, if we plug in 3/10, let's see, it'd be negative 5 times 3/10 minus 14. So that gives us negative 3/2 minus 14, which would be negative 31 over 2. So you can write it like that, or that would be negative 15.5. I'd be okay with that too. Either way is fine. Okay, number 3. This one has the g, so I got to use the other function right there. So that's a negative and then 0.4 squared plus 9 times 0.4 minus 1. So you can plug all that in one fell swoop if you like and just go straight across. Just put your parentheses where you need them to be. And you get 2.44, I believe. Okay, on number 4, g of negative 7. So we're using the g function. So I'll plug in negative 7. Again, be very careful where you put these parentheses. The negative 7 has to be in parentheses on each one of these, because if not, it may make a difference in your answer. So you should get negative 113. I suggest you pause in the video, plugging it in your calculator yourself, making sure that you can get that value. Now number 5, notice it has f of 1 minus f of negative 4. So basically it's like two problems in one. So we're going to plug in 1 into the first one. That would be negative 5 times 1 minus 14. Oops, let me write that as 14. Minus, in the second bracket, we're doing negative 4 into that f function. Like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug everything from the first bracket in my calculator. That gives me negative 19. And then I'll do the other side here. That gives me 6. And then negative 19 minus 6 would be negative 25. So you can just plug it in separately in your calculator and then put the last step in together. Then on number 6, 2 times g of 12. So this is going to be 2 times, and then we plug 12 into the g function, so let's do that. And what I would suggest is working out all this inner part first. That gives me negative 37. You just put it in your calculator all at one fell swoop there. And so that gives me negative 74. So just double check it yourselves. Make sure you can get these same values and there's no errors. If there are any errors, you just email me and let me know. Okay, so number 7. On this part, we're looking at fractions and we're looking at absolute values. So process is exactly the same. This is P and Q. So you got to pay attention to which function you need to use here. So on number 7, if we're plugging in negative 9 over 16 into the P function, then we'd have 1/2 minus 4/3 times negative 9 over 16. That would give us 5/4, I believe, which you can write it like that. You could write it as 1.25. You could write it as 1 1/4. Any of those would be fine with me. On number 8, if we plug in 5 in the Q function, this is the absolute value symbol, so you have to solve what's inside it first and then take the absolute value of it. So that gives us the absolute value of a negative 110, and that's 110, because remember absolute value is always positive. On number 9, we're plugging in negative 2 into the Q function, so absolute value of 3 times negative 2 minus negative 2 cubed. Again, you got to watch your parentheses there because that could change the signs. And that gives us the absolute value of 2. And the absolute value of 2 is 2. Then on number 10, P of 18, that means we're using the P of X function. We're going to plug 18 in for X. So that gives us 1/2 minus 24. So that's negative 47 over 2. And you can leave it like this if you prefer. Or you could write it as negative 23.5. That's fine too. Alright, so we'll keep going. Number 11, 7 minus Q of 4.5. So 7 minus, then we got to plug it into the Q formula. Let's see, that would be absolute value of 3 times 4.5 minus 4.5 cubed. So that's 7 minus, I guess I don't really need that particular bracket right there, because that absolute value basically does the same thing as a bracket. So this would be the absolute value of 77.625, which is 7 minus 77.625, because the absolute value is always positive. So I get a negative 70.625. All right. Number 12, 3 times P of negative 1 plus 5. So 3 times, and if I plug in negative 1 in the P function, and then I'm going to add 5 to it. Okay, so this would be 3 times 11 over 6 plus 5. So that gives us 11 over 2 plus 5, which gives us 21 over 2. Or you can write it as 10.5. See how it comes out in your calculator. Either one of those would be fine with me. All right, as we continue, now 13 and 14 is a little bit different than the others, because on the others we're plugging in the x value. They're telling us what is x. But at this point they're saying f of x is 34. So basically they're saying y is 34. And we're finding x. So I'm going to take the f of x function, f of x, which they give it to us right here, is 3x plus 19. And I'm going to take out the f of x and put what it's equal to. Okay, so that gives me 34 is equal to 3x plus 19. So notice how this one's different than the others. So now I solve for x, so I'm going to subtract 19 on both sides. That would give me 15 over here. And then I'm going to divide by 3, so I see x is 5. On number 14, they tell us that f of x is equal to negative 62. So negative 62 is equal to 3x plus 19. So I subtract 19. That would give me negative 81. And then I divide by 3, so x is negative 27. Okay, on the next part, Owen paid a landscaping company $108 for initial lawn treatment, then $74 per month thereafter. The function p of t equal to 108 plus 74t represents the total amount of money he will have paid after t months. So find p of 24, and what does it represent? Well, if you do p of 24, that means you're plugging in 24 for t. So you have 108 plus 74 times 24, which gives us 1884. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's see, what does that represent? That's the total amount of money he'll have paid after t months. So 1884 is the total paid for an initial lawn treatment it's not picking up too well here. Let me fix it. Can't type too fast or write too fast. Plus 24 months of service. Part B, how long has Owen been receiving lawn service if he has paid a total of $2,994 to date? So we would put 2,994 equal to 108 plus 74t and solve for t. So you would subtract the 108 on both sides. You get 2,886 equal to 74t. Divide by 74 and you get 39. So 39 months. We know it's months because we just pull the units from in the word problem, which is right there. All right, this last little section, they tell us to use these for the other questions here. So on number 16, f of c plus 2. So we take our f of x function and we plug in c plus 2 everywhere x is and solve. So we have distributed property right there. So negative 4c minus 8 plus 9. And then if you add your like terms, you get negative 4c plus 1. Okay, on number 17, if we plug in 7w minus 5 into the f of x function, then we have negative 4 times 7w minus 5 plus 9, which gives us negative 28w plus 20 plus 9, which gives us negative 28w plus 29. On number 18, g of negative 4y cubed. So we're using the other function now. We're using the one that has g. So that's negative 4y cubed squared minus 5. So remember, when you're squaring that, you're squaring the negative 4, and the y cubed. So you get 16y to the 6 minus 5. Then on number 19, if we plug in a minus 3 into the g function, that would give us a minus 3 squared minus 5. And remember, to solve that, that's like a minus 3 times a minus 3. So you've got FOIL right there. So that gives us a squared, that looks like a 3. A squared minus 3a minus 3a plus 9 minus 5. So that's FOIL. So that gives us a squared minus 6a plus 4. And then the last one looks a little bit more complicated, but it's not too bad. It does take a little bit more work than the others because it's like 2 problems in one. But let's see, g of 2m plus 1. So that would give us 2m plus 1 squared minus 5 for the first one. Okay, I'm going to put that in a bracket. The second one I'm putting in the bracket also, especially because of the negative there. We're subtracting f of 3m minus 7. So that would be negative 4 times 3m minus 7 plus 9. Okay, so here we've got FOIL on the first one. This would be 2m plus 1 times 2m plus 1 minus 5. This one, that's just distributed property right there, so 12m plus 28 plus 9. So this would give us 4m squared plus 2m plus 2m plus 1 minus 5 minus negative 12m plus, what is that, 37 if you add those together? Oops. So this would give us 4m squared plus 4m minus 4 plus 12m minus 37. Notice I'm distributing the negative in that second parentheses there. And that would give us 4m squared plus 16m minus 41. So yeah, that one took a lot more steps, but it's all stuff that you know how to do. So it shouldn't be too bad. All right, well that makes us to the end of today's lesson, and tomorrow you'll have an assignment that combines what we did the last 2 days. If you have questions, be sure and let me know. Remember, you can also, well, just ask questions. We'll do that Zoom conference thing when we get a chance, okay? Maybe you can check that out if you need it. Have a good day.